Hi guys, I wanted to do a flip through overview of Generations Great Christian Adventures Literature course. So I'm using this for my 9th grade high schooler. So with this course, you get the workbook, you get Titus, a Comrade of the Cross, the Swiss Family Robinson, and the Life of Henry Martin. And in here, in the workbook, you have the contents, the course introduction and everything in here. And then you have the course schedule assignments. So this, I go through, this is where I have like our due date and check it off when it's done. And I do like a point grade in here. So this is broken down. So it's about 3 to 4 times a week. And then on here, I whited out this section here because this would be like an essay at the end of each book. We only do an essay at the end of the last book, the 3rd book in this case, because we also do IEW, structure and style writing, and there's plenty of essay writing in that, so we only do 1 essay out of this. And then out of these 3 books, I always pick 1 audiobook, and I chose the Swiss Family Robinson that we'll actually listen to on audiobook. And then the rest of the time, my oldest is completing the course, reading and everything. So that's again in here. I added like a day to study for the comprehension exam for a book, and then we aren't doing the essays. So we're adding on a couple weeks, so then I can spread things out a little bit. And then here at the end, we are doing the essay assignment. So I'll show you what it looks like. So there's an introduction to every book, which we just love. And then there's chapter summary. So that has vocabulary words, scripture, and then they use those vocabulary words and they come up with their own sentence. So I check this section here for correct usage and grammar for the complete sentence. And then for the study questions and like the meditation and application, I took out at the end the answer key. So my child will typically complete all of this on their own, say in pencil, and Mom, I'm done with that. Can I have the answer key? I'll hand them the answer key, and then in pen they will check these study questions and the meditation and application section. And I found this works best for our family because there's a lot of things to grade, and it kind of helps keep it fresh and see if they're comprehending what's needed from that chapter. And then they'll be like, okay, Mom, do you have time now to check like the sentences and stuff? Sometimes I do that day. Sometimes I have to push it off later in the week. And then I'll let them know, hey, you have just a few corrections or you got everything right. And then I will give like a point value. So like, for example, for this chapter 1, there is what, 5, and 1, so 11 things. So I'll do like 11 out of 11 to give them completion points, because again, we do this till things are corrected. So I'll kind of flip through this so you can see what it looks like. So this part that we're on right now is for Titus. So we're on this book here. And then let's see if I can go to the end of this section. So there's quite a bit, but I like to see what things look like on the inside. So you can see I marked off the essay assignment because we're just doing the comprehension exam. So I will check this. And then if they got anything wrong, I'll hand it back to them and have them correct it and give them half credit for the one that they got incorrect if they got it correct on the second time. If they didn't get it correct on the second time, then I'll just count that wrong. So that's how I grade. And then you move on to the Swiss Family Robinson. I'll get to the end of this here. You can see the comprehension exam. I marked off the essay assignment because we only do the essay for the last one. So then the last one's the Life of Henry Martin. Again, there's that introduction, and then you go by chapters. And then we'll go to the end. We have the comprehension exam. And then the essay assignment. So we pick one, I have them circle it, and then I'll show you how I set it up, planning out how they complete that essay assignment. So this will be for this book. So again, I take my Mardell A Simple Plan planner, and I use in the front the planning page tab, and I use the yearly overview. So this kind of gives me an idea of what it is. And you saw how I widened out some of those sections for like book 1 and book 2 that we weren't doing the essay. So that gave us like 2 extra weeks. So I bumped everything up a week. And so after book 3, when we have the exam, like the next week, begin essay, decide which essay and write a keyword outline. A keyword outline, my oldest has learned how to write these through IEW structure and style. And then on another day, they're writing their first paragraph, another day, second paragraph. Then the next week, they're writing their third paragraph, and depending on what essay they chose, will determine if it's a 3-paragraph essay, a 4, or a 5. So I wrote on here extra days with question marks, whether or not they needed it. If my child chose an essay, they don't need those, then we'll bump this up. But if they needed those, we'll keep this down here. So we're adding in IEW dress up. So this would be from the writing curriculum we use, structure and stuff through IEW, and give it to mom to edit. And then I will edit that paper, and I have another video on how I edit papers. And then on the next day, I will hand it back to them. They will make changes to the paper based on what I edited, and then they'll submit their final draft. And then I will give a grade for that, and then they're done with the literature course. So that's kind of how I have that set up. And so on here, you see we have it set out to where it's like how many days we're reading is what I wrote here in pencil. To figure out, if you guys see my 9th grade curriculum choice picks, you see there's a stack of literature on there. So I have it on here to where, okay, this first week they're reading the books from Generations 2 times a week. And then so 2, 2, 2, looks like 2. That they aren't reading those, 3, 4, and then there's one here's a busy week where they're reading a lot. So this is how I come up with the other literature courses and split those books up. So here I have it split up by each book. And if you want to know what these books are, go ahead and check out that video for 9th grade. But if you want to, you can screenshot this so you guys can see how I split up those books on here. So that is how I set up for the school year, Generations Christian Adventures literature course, which includes these 3 books. We have been really impressed with these literature courses. We started it in 8th grade, and I think that's a really good time to start these courses because then it's preparing them and getting them ready to start analyzing and even more comprehension, but it's not taking that joy of learning and reading out, which sometimes can happen when you start your kids on a literature course where they're having all these questions to answer, all this vocabulary to answer. But we just love Generations, and it's from a biblical worldview. And they actually go back to the original writing of books. So like the Swiss Family Robinson, for example, God has not been taken out of this edition. And like we read, one of the books last year we read was Heidi. And that they went back to the original German language because that's when that edition did not have God removed out of it, and they translated into the English in the edition that they have available. So I love that God is not taken out of these books. It's all from a solid biblical world view, and that's something that's very important to our family. So if you have any questions about this course or any questions in general, please leave a comment down below and I'll get back with you as soon as I can. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your day and happy homeschooling.